If Trump abrogates these treaties, we'll have a war. The Panamanians are not going to take it lying down.
Mm.
They'll close the canal, and when U.S. troops are sent there to try to reopen it, they will fight. That 100% will happen if Trump actually makes good on these astonishingly irresponsible threats. And just to give you an example of why they're so stupid and irresponsible.
One of the big achievements of Carter's administration was uh, the Panama Canal and convincing Congress to give it back to Panama. And Trump has been very busy in the media saying that he wants it back, and he's going to take the Panama Canal back. How do you feel Carter will react to that? And can you say a bit more about how Trump is the opposite of Carter?
Okay, so Trump is the un-Carter, Carter is the un-Trump. I think everybody knows that, Trump lies. Carter was famous for telling the truth. Trump uses hate and fear. Carter uses hope and peace. Uh, and so, I'm actually going to post something on my Substack that has a few more details about that. I wrote a New York Times, short New York Times article about how different they are. But I want to talk about the Panama Canal. So this is one of Carter's underappreciated achievements.
Mhm.
So the canal was built in the early part of the 20th century by the United States, but it was on sovereign soil, Panamanian soil. And we basically we it was a great engineering achievement, but it was corrupt and an act of genuine imperialism when we built it. In 1976, 4 years before he beat Carter, Ronald Reagan was running against Gerald Ford for the Republican nomination. And he made the Panama Canal treaties that were then being negotiated to turn over the canal to the Panamanians. He made that a top issue. And he said, we bought it, we paid for it, it's ours. Another Republican said, we stole it fair and square, you know, and it became a big issue. Um, Carter becomes president and he makes a very tough decision. Everybody tells him, put this off to your second term. Two-thirds of Americans supported keeping the canal, opposed turning it back to the Panamanians. And to win approval of the treaties required a two-thirds vote in the United States Senate, which all treaties do. So this was the heaviest of heavy lifts politically. And all these people say, oh, Jimmy Carter didn't get anything accomplished with Congress, should look to the, first of all, he got 70% of his program through. But the Panama Canal treaties were a really important victory for Jimmy Carter. And the reason that he won and he got 19 votes from Republicans in the Senate, which would be impossible today,
Mhm.
is that the Joint Chiefs went down there and they said, if we don't do what Carter's saying, if we don't turn this canal back over to the Panamanians, the canal will be sabotaged
Mhm.
and closed, and a major artery of global commerce will be closed, and it will require 100,000 American troops here forever to protect the canal. And so we in our own national security interest to prevent a war, and Carter believed to provide Panamanians with some justice for this canal having been
Mhm.
basically stolen from them. He got the treaties approved. And then, and this is the part that makes what Trump's doing even crazier, the Panamanians have done a great job in the last 25 years. The full handover to full Panamanian control didn't begin until 2000. So between 1980 and 1978, when they were approved, and 2000, there was joint control. while the Panamanians were trained in how to manage the canal. 2000, they took full control. They've done a great job. Everything Trump says about them, giving favors to the Chinese are lies. And if Trump abrogates these treaties, we'll have a war. The Panamanians are not going to take it lying down.
Mm.
They'll close the canal. And when U.S. troops are sent there to try to reopen it, they will fight. That 100% will happen if Trump actually makes good on these astonishingly irresponsible threats. And just to give you an example of why they're so stupid and irresponsible. So Ronald Reagan becomes president after Carter. He had made his career on the Panama Canal. That's how he came to national prominence. And so I asked a senior Reagan official after Reagan left office, I said, hey, remember the Panama Canal? Why didn't you guys like abrogate the treaties that you were so against? It's like it was this big issue. And the answer I got was, well, they worked. Carter was right.
Yeah.
Everything worked out great. We would have
Mm.
been crazy to mess with those treaties and mess with the canal. So this is, I mean, I think Trump is just trolling. I don't think it'll actually happen, but it's a great example of um, Carter's vision. 7 United States senators lost their seats because of their votes on the Panama Canal. I don't think it was decisive in Carter's defeat, but it played at least a minor role in strengthening the nationalists who backed Ronald Reagan. So he did this, even though it wasn't politically smart for him to do. In that sense, it was vintage Jimmy Carter.
Mhm.
And Trump's threats against the canal and his vile attacks on the Panamanians and everybody else, is characteristic of Trump. So
Yeah.
it's a great issue to focus on.